we have the first official look at the numbers for the Fantastic Four trailer. This is coming from The Hollywood Reporter. We'll look at the actual article here in a second. It says the Fantastic Four teaser trailer received 202 million views in its first 24 hours of release. For comparison, Spider-Man No Way Home's teaser, 355. Avengers Endgame, 289. And then down here you have people bringing up the Superman thing for 250 million views for Superman. Okay, so let's look at the actual article here just to see officially what the statements were from Disney. And then I'll give you my take on this. Is this good? Should we be celebrating it? We'll get into it. The Fantastic Four First Steps trailer flies to a phenomenal 200 million plus views in its first day. The inaugural sport for the movie scored one of the biggest starts in recent memory for a Marvel Studios title behind Deadpool and Wolverine. Talk about a successful rocket launch. The first trailer for the Fantastic Four First Steps flew to 202 million viewers in the first 24 hours across all platforms to mark one of the best liftoffs for a Marvel Studios title in recent memory, behind the record-shattering Deadpool and Wolverine. The cast members, Pedro Pascal, Evan Moss-Bachrach, Joseph Quinn, and Vanessa Kirby, traveled to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama, to assist in unveiling the first glimpse of the movie, which aims to reboot the iconic comic book franchise. Kevin Feige's Marvel Studios gained control of the Fantastic Four series after the Disney-Fox merger, including full rights to Deadpool. According to Disney, the trailer launch in Alabama drew the most views ever for a Marvel YouTube live stream, in addition to becoming the #1 trending video on YouTube. Let's stop for a second there and just mention that. I guess that's awesome, right? I mean, you know, you can't really complain about that. I think there's probably multiple factors here. And I think that, look, I'm critical of having a big time thing and then putting an hour-long timer on a thing. And then, having the interview and having all of that. I was pretty critical of that immediately. I was critical of it yesterday. But I think we have to admit that at the very least, that created a focal point, a talking point. People, did get up early for that. And so I think in a lot of ways it was probably considered a success. I think they could take that same idea and replicate it in the future with just a tighter production, Maybe the countdown is a part of that, but it was pretty feel bad to wake up, look over at the stream and realize you had to wait an entire hour longer to get the trailer. I think it's interesting, though. And, we'll talk about the Superman comparison in a little bit here. There was a lot going into the Superman thing, and Gunn, of course, showed it to the press before actually releasing it. There was a lot of buzz built up over time for it, and it performed the way that it did. You can see that the studios are trying to tap into interesting ways to build that momentum, to have a big launch for these big trailers. And it seems like it was a success here. The Fantastic Four First Steps trailer launch was also a top tender on X. Oh, Trender probably is what they meant. Formerly known as Twitter. All told, social media volume hit almost 500,000 higher than any Marvel trailer outside of Deadpool 3, which debuted during the last year's Super Bowl game. The First Steps spot teases a retro future world and an impending threat from Galactus, one of Marvel's most famous antagonists. The movie, which opens in July, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so pretty wild. Official Disney says it was the highest viewed live stream and the #1 trending YouTube video on YouTube. And according to Disney, 202 million viewers in its first 24 hours across all platforms. So, couple of things to keep in mind with this. Number one, this is less than Superman. Let's just start there. That's probably what everybody wants to talk about. Oh, Josh, it's less than Superman. Oh, man, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? It's less than Superman. I mean, look, I want to know what you guys think, so let me know in the chat, and we'll get into it in the Q&A section as well here, right? But to me, I'm actually surprised that it was that close. Just from what I saw, I felt like there was a lot of buzz for the Fantastic Four trailer. One thing that I didn't do, but I like to do in these situations is I like to see how do the trailer breakdowns perform for some of the bigger channels, right? So New Rockstars, Heavy Spoilers, Screen Crush. It's always cool to see like how their trailer reactions to these things go. And I think from what I've seen, the viewership of those is like incredibly high. I wish I could remember exactly what the numbers were for Superman. But I think this is a pretty high number. This is higher than I thought it would have been. And this is also a trailer that isn't getting the boost that Deadpool and Wolverine got from the Super Bowl. That whole situation is kind of sus, right? I think the reported number was something like 280 something million views for the Deadpool first trailer. And don't get me wrong, there's massive views. There are so much interest in the Deadpool trailer. But it's kind of shady when you add like 120 million viewers on a 30-second version of that trailer that people were watching, on the Super Bowl, right? So I think, like, I guess what I'm trying to say here is, I think these Fantastic Four trailer numbers are incredibly impressive considering that they didn't have the Super Bowl gimmick. And I also think this is incredibly impressive because the Fantastic Four, to me at least, is not as big of an inherent draw as Superman. Now, we could get in debates on this, and I think there's wiggle room here. I would love to know what some of you guys think about this exact issue. But in my opinion, Superman himself, probably just as big of a draw, if not a larger draw than the Fantastic Four. Like, if we're being real, considering all of the shit that's happened in like the last 20 to 30 years of media, I would venture to say Superman holds a bigger draw than these FF characters. And I also think because it's James Gunn and it's the reboot and everyone was like, dude, like, we got to know, what does the DCU look like? There's so much more inherent interest built in to the Superman trailer. So I don't know, maybe it's just cope, right? Maybe I'm just huffing on the copium. But in my opinion, these are impressive numbers. And I really do think that this is something Marvel should be really proud of. Like, when I saw these numbers, I was like, dude, that's wild. Like, that's super impactful, because we also have to remember Marvel Studios, despite having Deadpool and Wolverine and having some stuff that has popped off, generally interest in Marvel has been down. The trending box office for the movies has been bad, right? I mean, that's the whole, other than Guardians 3, which was kind of an outlier, you see a big trend down, which is why they recalibrate a lot of things. And, with the discourse this year over some of the different shows and even Captain America Brave New World, like, Marvel is in such a different place than DC. And I think the question specifically with Marvel and with regards to the Fantastic Four is Marvel Studios capable of making new stuff in the MCU and promoting it in such a way as to bring a large amount of attention and interest from the already built-in audience that they either once had or they still kind of have access to, right? An example that I bring up all the time, and I think it's just a great example to show the status of Marvel, where they are at and where their fan base is at. Even Guardians 3, which at this point is 2 years ago, but I think it's still in line with, the basic patterns of the Marvel fans. Guardians 3 actually underperforms in its opening weekend. So if you had just been looking at what Quantumania did and then the opening weekend of Guardians 3, you might have like panicked a little bit, and maybe Marvel did. I don't know. But it underperforms in its first weekend, and then it goes on to have incredible word of mouth. It has incredible legs, and it ends up getting to like 850, almost to $900 million. What that showed me, and I think what it showed a lot of people, is the fact that there are a lot of Marvel fans kind of lying in wait that are still aware of the brand and are just making more careful decisions on what they engage with. If it doesn't seem like it's going to be super cool, maybe they don't engage with it as much. Maybe they don't see it in theaters. If it feels like it's like, I don't want to say like old Marvel, but if it feels like it's important Marvel, I think that's really what it comes down to for the fans is if it feels like it's a big deal and it's important, this is like an experience, this is an event, I think Marvel has access to this huge group of fans and of moviegoers. And so to me, this is kind of surprising. I was surprised by these numbers. I think these numbers are incredible. And if to me, right, the most important factor here is this movie's already performing very well with a mass audience. And I think a lot of people they really like what they see. They accept the world of the Fantastic Four, the vibes of this movie, the look of the powers for the characters. They're on board with like all the basic shit one would need to be on board with in order to enjoy this film. And the other thing that's really wild, of course, is that Marvel is hiding so much from the fans. There's so much that is not seen within this trailer. And I actually am working on a big video about that because I want to talk about everything I think the trailer is hiding. And there's some like little hints and teases as far as what it is hiding. And there's big rumors out there. So I want to do like a big spoilery video. I'm kind of working on that behind the scenes today. But I think overall, right, this has been the week of Fantastic Four. It has dominated the news cycle this week. I think the trailer was very successful. And to me, these numbers, I really think these numbers are great. Thanks for watching. And if you like this clip, smash a like on the actual video and subscribe to this channel. That way more of these clips get into your feed. I've also linked the full episode below if you want to check out the entire thing, including the Q&A we do with fans. You can also watch this show live. We do it live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And you can also find all of my content, including the videos I put on my main YouTube channel on the podcast feed.